It's Thursday, October 8th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rem.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight with the book club, Der Steppenwolf. Oh.
Let's do this. I've been rollerblading to the train station every day because my car, the brakes are busted, and I just haven't had a chance to take it to a mechanic.
You haven't had the experience of driving on the brand new road. It's so smooth.
I had the experience of rollerblading on that road, and let me tell you,
They paved our road, by the way.
it's a pleasant experience.
Yes, our
Wide
road
lanes.
it was desperately in need of paving was paved, and they did an excellent job. They did it very quickly, and it's great.
In general, it makes me very happy that I live in this little city of Beacon because
The thing is, I paid for this road
And now you're
with
moving
taxes,
away?
and now I'm leaving.
Well, thanks for the road.
Yeah, great.
But the cool thing is, in the my only complaint about Beacon, other than the key food, is that all the infrastructure is shitty and old. Like the power outages happen kind of often because every pole is on the verge of death at any moment.
Yeah.
Like at any second, they're
I
all
didn't
just
even
gonna
have
fall
poles.
over.
Should be underground.
Yeah, all the modern suburbs are underground for the most part. At least the internal distribution in a subdivision, not so much the main carrier
At least in the
lines.
city, everything's underground.
Yeah, including scary old steam pipes and electricity. No one knows where it's coming from or going. And
Yeah.
But, Beacon, my big complaint was all the old infrastructure, the busted roads, the busted sidewalks, and the elections are coming up. And for a second, I was thinking, maybe I should figure out who's going to raise taxes and fix this stuff.
I
and just vote
tried
for
to
them.
figure out who to vote for. Right?
You know what I learned?
What?
Doesn't matter, because in the last month, it looks like they got all this government subsidy money from the bailout and the stimulus package. And suddenly they're fixing everything. They're replacing power poles and paving roads and fixing sidewalks. So.
Right. So I was trying to see who to vote for, and I think I'm just gonna have to skip this vote because I happen to be moving very close to voting time. So and it's the local election, so it's the least important vote.
Well, it's also the most
And I don't think I'll be
important.
registered in time to vote for New York mayor, which could matter, but whatever.
Well, think of it this way. It's the most important vote for you directly, but only if the candidates are reasonably different.
Yeah. But anyway, so I looked at the cards. Apparently all the candidates go house to house. But when they came to our house, of course, we were not home because we commute. Yeah, great. Good job, guys. And they all left little cards. So I read the little cards that they left.
I remember last time there was an election here, both parties basically said they would do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and one of the cards, though, I remember one of the cards, and it said one item on one of the cards really stood out to me. It said, took money back from the MTA, so money doesn't leave our county. And I was like,
What?
I was like, fuck you.
You bastard.
The only reason my money came into your county is because the train is there. Without that train, you wouldn't have nothing.
Yeah, I like Beacon. If there was no train, I would be living in Manhattan, because what else am I going to do?
So it's I didn't know who to vote for, but I knew not that guy. Anyway.
Yeah, but, rollerblading. So I have my rollerblades in the city. And one thing I've never really done in my life is rollerbladed in a dense urban environment. But Muse Games, Emily and Alex, the game company, they made their game Guns of Icarus, and we had a game party last night. So I was going to go. It's downtown, and I decided to rollerblade from Midtown to Chinatown during the rush hour commute.
Good job.
That was one of the more exhilarating and death-defying things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, you need a helmet for that shit.
Actually, a helmet probably wouldn't have done me any good. I had my wrist guards. That's really all you need.
No, a helmet would have done you some good if a car hit you.
A car wasn't going to hit me.
It could have.
I wasn't too worried.
Yeah.
I got to say, the most dangerous place to be if you're on the street is one of those fucking bike lanes. You're better off just in traffic dodging buses than in those bike lanes.
Well, it depends on which bike lane, It's the bike lane on Broadway is actually really wide and has a barrier next to it, and cars can't get into it, So
yeah,
it's
for a stretch. You realize you get past that stretch, and there's people just parked, blocking it.
Oh, yeah.
It's oh, great. Thanks, dude.
Bike people just sort of get used to it,
Yeah, and you know what? Rollerbladers, too. But I got to say, it was kind of awesome. Just dodging buses and going all over the street and cutting across and trying to figure out how to get to... I don't know if I'll do it again anytime soon, because I afterward, I thought maybe I might have died. But it was fun at least once. I feel like everyone should do that at least once in their life.
There's the thing is, if you've never done it before, I could understand why you think, oh man, it's death defying, whatever, right? There's like little old ladies riding their bicycles around New York City. It is not nearly a dangerous, death-defying kind of thing. It just feels like it if you're not used to it. As soon as you're used to it, it's just like, oh, whatever.
No, because I've ridden bikes in that sort of traffic. And in fact, I've ridden bikes in the city before. And it's a completely different experience from rollerblading. One, rollerblades are not... Like, you can maneuver very well, but what you cannot do quickly in the street without a bunch of space around you is stop. And also, cars apparently just can't see a rollerblader. Like they did, like bikes at least, like they see bikes and they know I'm there. And while they might be mad at me and they might cut it close, I don't worry that the cars are just gonna hit me outright. Cars almost just hit me outright, just like I was completely invisible. I hit a guy's car with the shoes I was carrying after he almost hit me.
If I do think about it, most of the time I've ever seen any sort of non-bikes in the city, like skateboard guys and blade
It's
people,
always like in the park.
they're always on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
They don't really go down the street so
I tried
much.
to go down the sidewalk. That was even more dangerous.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm still moving. I'm making a good progress. I have the keys. I've got stuff. I'm going to get deliveries and whatnot. I went today to get a mattress. So basically, I went to the Sleepy's nearest my work.
Sleepy's, not Mattress King.
Where is there a Mattress King?
I don't even know if that's a real place.
I know, right? The thing is, right?
It sounds like it should be a real place.
It's like usually I would shop around for something like this, or usually I would shop online also. But a mattress, you got to lay in it, before you buy it. And a mattress is something you're gonna have for a long time. Like the mattress I have now, I've had for 8 years.
Wow, the mattress I've had for 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, and the dude at the mattress place was like, look, he was a real friendly guy, but he obviously was a skilled mattress salesman. There was no question about that because he's like, look, a mattress is something.
Wait, Scott. He go up to you and he's like, the more expensive ones are clearly superior.
No, what he actually said was, look, a mattress is something you're gonna have, for like 10 years, if not more, right? You're gonna spend how much time on it? Half your day every day, or at least like a third of your day every day. You should get a good one, even if it costs more. Which is kind of true.
Well,
right?
Considering I'm sitting in an Aeron chair and you have a human freedom chair, I think that is exactly the argument to use on someone like
that. That
us.
is exactly the argument that I used on myself.
Yeah.
I was like, well,
so, what mattress did you get?
I got, I forget what the hell it was. I forget.
We'll have to compare features because my mattress is a very expensive mattress, and
I think the mattress is like $1,200.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's about what mine was.
So I knew, right? The thing is, we had that thread in the forum, like you can't avoid these psychological tricks, even though you know they're there. The thing was, what I did is I said, okay, psychological trick number 1, the expensive wine tastes better, right? I knew that. So you know what I did? I laid on the mattresses and didn't look at any price tags, but until I had already determined which ones I liked better.
Good idea.
Yep.
So was the plan, unless like something ludicrous, like you ask and it's $100,000, just pick whatever one felt the best, no matter what?
Well, kind of. And then trick number 2, right, was I knew that you'd sort of remember which ones you slept in based on the order you laid on them in. So I kept switching between them in different patterns. I kept going back and forth across the store and, to try, to compare better. And a lot of this was really helpful because there were a lot of sort of like these test mattresses where it'd be like, half the mattress was one way and half was the other way. So you could just sort of roll over to sort of get a different feel. And
some people buy actual mattresses like that.
Yeah. I also tested out these pillows, and I found like the best pillow. So I carried that same pillow to all the mattresses to get the correct comparison. I'd always be using the same pillow. And then I picked a mattress, and I'm like, yeah, just fucking give me this mattress. God damn it, whatever. But they have a policy: if I can find the mattress cheaper, like elsewhere, I can get my money. I can get the difference plus 10%. So I'm gonna go and shop around, see if I can find that mattress online for less money and get some money back. But yeah, the one thing that I learned going there, because I went there during lunch, I'm trying to move without missing any work. So like every lunch, I'm doing something. If you have lunch in New York City or just pretty much anywhere, spend your lunch at the mattress store. It's like free naps. I mean, come on.
How long will they let me sleep before they come and accost me?
This guy was like totally, of course I was buying a mattress, but he was like encouraging me to just like lay around his store and, not leave until I had, bought something, but, whatever.
He might catch on after 3 years.
I'd be like, I was already like, he was like super friendly. I'd totally love to be friends with that guy.
Are you sure it wasn't professionally friendly, like the people in the fancy hotels?
Oh, he seemed genuinely friendly.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to get you to buy a mattress for more than $1,000.
I don't know. It's like, it was weird because it was like the perfect salesman. Like his sales skills were either so good, either A, he was just genuinely super awesome, or B, his sales skills were so awesome that, whatever, he can take my money. Because like, some guys, they're salesmen that come off with a hard sell. This guy just came off as like this guy I want to hang out with because he's so great. And he knew a lot about mattresses.
Huh. I might have to go meet this guy.
Yeah, go to the Sleepies on 57th Avenue in Newark, Manhattan.
So what, did he pay you for an ad? Is that what's going on here?
No, he was just real friendly, and his psychological tricks worked on me, despite me trying. I avoided the trick of judging the mattress by the price, but I couldn't avoid the trick of good salesmen. So
I gotta go there at some point. My mattress is getting old.
Oh, apparently the mattress I have, I don't have to turn it over.
Every 6 months I turn mine over.
I asked him, so when, should I turn my mattress over? He's like, nope, new mattresses, don't have to turn them over.
Wow, I gotta turn mine over every 6 months.
He did have one trick that I didn't fall for, though.
I tried to sell you something.
No. Apparently the mattress has like a huge warranty, right? Like if a spring pops out, like in an old cartoon, I get, they'll replace the whole thing.
So he tried to sell you some sort of special warranty?
Apparently mattress companies, all the mattress manufacturers have a trick in their warranties. If there's any stain whatsoever on the mattress, your warranty is just gone. That's the trick. So why is this a trick? Because they want to sell you a mattress cover.
Wait, one of those plastic things?
No, a mattress pad like I have already, right? Oh. The thing is, so he had these fancy mattress pads, and he was like, oh, this one is hypoallergenic, and this one keeps the dust mites out, and this one's waterproof, and right? And I was like, whoa.
I don't need waterproof.
Well, he's like, imagine if you spill a glass of wine, on your bed. I'm like, well, I'll lose my warranty.
My problem with that is that if you have a cheap mattress, then yeah, like that artificial mattress pad, like pillow top cover, you need that. But if you have a mattress that already has the pillow top on it, and you don't care that it's eventually going to have the vague color of body oil in the part you sleep on.
The thing is, I have a mattress pad. He was trying to sell me a mattress pad for like $70. That was all fancy. And the thing was, that mattress pad, a lot of the features of it that he claimed were duplicated in my already existing mattress. Like,
you got a waterproof mattress?
No, not the waterproof part, but the anti-allergen dust mite parts, whatever. I just ignored that anyway, but because I don't need that. But regardless, right?
I you had to throw that in there just in case. Like, oh, but I don't need that. So
yeah. Thing is, I'll just buy the same kind of mattress pad that I already have for a lot less than $70. So I was like, no mattress pad. Just deliver this to my apartment.
So
thank you.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but yeah, free naps. Oh yeah.
Until they realize you're not actually buying a mattress, and then they don't let you back into the store.
Different disguise every day.
I don't have that many disguises.
Oh, go to different mattress stores on consecutive days with a disguise and rotate it around.
So anyway, it's Thursday. We always try to make Thursday just fun and mixed up, and we don't have to. It's not like we have to follow the format and do the news and all the stuff we normally do. And it's time to do the book club, which we should have done last Thursday's show, but I called Scott's bluff because he was like, the book will be done. I'll finish it, and we'll do the book club the next Geeknights Thursday. And I was like, okay. And I didn't even bother finishing the book because I assumed Scott wouldn't. And then Scott finished the book, and I didn't. So
that's right.
I had to, finish the book.
So I made you look like a fool.
Yeah, but I finished the book.
Anyway, the long-delayed book club. I feel like we haven't done any Thursday episodes other than book clubs. Like, we just keep skipping Thursdays.
Except we haven't done the book club in forever. And how many of you actually read Steppenwolf?
I think the thing is, from now on, starting today, during the meta moment, right? Meta minute, whatever you want to call it.
Metamucil.
Right.
I'm going to keep saying that.
During the meta segment of our show, I'm going to announce the book club book every single show.
Speaking,
and I think that will help.
Of which, it's your turn to pick. What is the next book club book?
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Oh, we're going to do it at the second half now?
Yeah. So anyway, we read Steppenwolf. Now, by what? I want to pronounce
Herman Hesse.
Okay, I hope that's all you with that pronunciation. Somebody emailed us
and said Herman Hesse, but
but someone emailed us who was like a scholar in this sort of in this German literature, right? So I am not, putting them down in any way. In fact, I think that's totally awesome. And I totally respect everything that they have to say about this book.
That is pretty much the standard boilerplate for dudes about to get punched intellectually.
No, not at all. The thing is, right, he was like, basically in his email was like, you have to let me come on the episode where you talk about the show so I can talk about all these intellectual bits that you won't understand just reading it once without, the meta context of, the scholarly knowledges and all that. And you know what? He's probably exactly right. There's probably a whole bunch of shit we don't know. We're going to sound like complete morons if like a literature scholar listens to this episode. That's all correct. The thing is, the Geeknights book club, the goal is get people to read because people don't read books anymore as much.
Read a book.
Exactly. So, and I think that talking about a book in the scholarly way that we would appreciate as smart peoples that we are would not really do such a good job of getting illiterates to read.
Scott, I will say this. You know what you've actually just said?
What?
I am hereby covering my ass to make sure that no one realizes that I did not analyze this book in any depth.
I analyzed it in depth. What I'm saying is that I want to get the guy to talk about all the scholarliness on another episode and not this episode.
I do agree with that. I want to split up because it's kind of like I read Steppenwolf not necessarily from the academic perspective. Like if I was reading a book to analyze, like I used to do in high school and college, or with certain books that I reread, like The Prince of Nothing, I'll sit there and I'll analyze, I'll take notes, I'll think, I'll try to oh, well, he quoted this. I wonder if it was referencing this earlier and all that sort of stuff. But I read this the way I would approach reading like any fiction novel. I just read it straight up, just go, let's go. I didn't go back. I didn't find quotes again or anything. And I just have my straight up, unadulterated opinion. I never read this book in school. I never had anyone analyze it for me or explain anything for me. I even avoided looking at the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I didn't look at the Wikipedia page at all. I know nothing about this book other than what was in the book.
So, I want to point out before we continue, if you have not already read Steppenwolf, stop listening because we're about to talk about Steppenwolf as though you've already read it.
Can we really spoil Steppenwolf? I mean, kinda.
Even then, so if someone listens, I'm not going to be like, so the plot was that there was this man named Herman Hesse, and he stabs a bitch, the end.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
But just warning, we're going to spoil this book, and it's not that spoilable, but I'd recommend you read it before you listen to what we're about to say.
Right. So, the first thing,
I want to jump right into pretty much the biggest part.
Okay.
I don't think Hermione was real. I think that was just all in his head the whole time.
Wait, you don't think what was real?
The girl, the main character girl.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there was any, from the very beginning, when he first met her, I was
Just the way you said her name, I guess I was mispronouncing her name, or you are?
What, Hermione? What are you going to call her?
I don't know.
Hermione?
I have no idea.
I'm going with Hermione.
Okay. Whatever.
That scholar guy probably just hung himself.
Yeah, right.
But
that gives us a good tangent, right? This book was originally written in German, right? We're reading a translation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, I wonder what was lost in translation here. Obviously, something. I mean, there's parts in this book where there are, poems and rhymes and various things of that nature, How well were those translated from, the original? I mean, I was every time something like that came up, a poem or a rhyme or something, or some song lyrics or anything along those lines, I always just thought, I wonder what I'm missing here, that it not being in German,
Well, here's a note from the translation.
Aha.
This is the first revised edition of Basil Creighton's translation of 1929.
Whoa.
That's good in a way, because it was contemporary English.
Yeah, exactly.
In the revision, we were intent on a more exact... So they revised it in 1963, but the base is the 1929 one.
Mm-hmm.
Exact and more readily understood rendition. British spellings and idioms have been Americanized, Germanisms removed, awkward sentences improved, and misleading translations corrected.
I want the Germanisms, though. Oh, well.
Yeah, but how are you going to go down the road of the fan subs?
No, but I just wonder what I'm missing.
Yeah, well, I feel... In any translated work, if you go beyond...
I mean, let's be perfectly honest here, right? What's lost in translation matters a lot more in a great literary work than it does in an anime, even if it's a great anime. I mean, come on, right? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, what I would just say is that if you're going to take any work seriously, if you really, if Steppenwolf meant something to you beyond just being a novel,
You got to learn German and read it in German.
well, what I would recommend is, in the very least, read of any work like this, a literal kind of translation, and independently of that, a kind of like modernly rendered, proper translation.
Not a bad idea either. Yeah, usually reading multiple translations, you can sort of add them together and sort of infer what the original root was that someone could translate it in those two different ways.
But pretty much from the beginning, I figured that she was completely in his head, and that was all just either in his head or, in the very least, he was the character was taking his experience and writing about it as though the experience, everything was this girl. Because this was all read by the other main character nominally who read the thing.
See, that's the thing, right? You look at this book as a whole, right? And what really drew me into the book was that first part where you have the guy talking about the Steppenwolf who lived in his same apartment building as he was, right? And that part was pretty awesome. And then the rest of the book is not the Steppenwolf talking directly, but this dude reading the memoirs that the Steppenwolf left behind. And he even says straight up, like, yeah, I think a lot of the stuff in here is obviously not real. And I basically assumed, like, okay, anything in it that happens here that is fantastic in any sort of way is obviously not real.
Oh, yeah, but I would go one step further and say that even the non-fantastic meeting with this girl was completely...
Well, I mean, as soon as he saw, pretty much from the point in the... memoirs where he like started seeing like the words appear, like, not for everyone, I was like, yeah, it's not, from here on out everything's fake.
Well, see,
with hints of truth here and there, like
having read other works by the author, I kind of got this impression that the intent there was to kind of express this meta intent. The intent of the Steppenwolf, the guy writing this memoir, was that he had a profound revelation. And the profound revelation, if he had just explained the revelation, would not have felt so profound to someone analyzing it or reading about it who didn't actually experience it. So he translated his, internal experience into this fantastical experience in order to express upon other people just the gravity of the feeling that he felt and the gravity of what happened to his life in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, he didn't literally find a magic theater. He had some revelation that would have felt like finding a magical theater that opens your mind and blah 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 blah.
I think the part where he went to the professor's house, that was one of my favorite scenes. That was pretty good. That was probably actually a mostly. I mean, like, we talk about this like, oh, that part was real, that part wasn't. The whole book is a work of fiction, right? It's one of those books in a book. And the thing is, the book in a book always you think that would be sort of cliche, but every time I see the book in a book, or even the book in a book, which I have seen,
it's out there.
It works like really well. I guess it's because nobody dares to do it unless they're going to do it well,
But that's that whole scene where he sees that painting of Goeth and he's just like, fuck you, painting. But actually, the reason I like that scene too is...
The thing is, I can really identify with that. Like, how many times I see a painting of like some old historic character or fictional character, and I'm like, that's not what the fuck that dude looks like.
But that wasn't
bullshit.
his feeling. It was such a complex feeling that at first he appreciates the painting, and then he goes through these different, he sees the painting in all these different layers, and every time he peels away a layer, he gets more and more pissed off about the painting.
Yep.
But that scene too is, up until that point, the book pulls a couple of switcheroos on the Steppenwolf. Because first, from the perspective of the dude just reading the memoir, that bourgeois guy reading the memoir, the Steppenwolf is this fascinating and alluring character. And he seems cool. He seems powerful. You think, that is a man. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at what the dude says about the Steppenwolf in the scene where they're like both in the music house, and when they both go to see the lecturer, and the Steppenwolf gives him a look, and he's like, "Oh, that look! Oh, it was this incredibly powerful look that's said so much. Oh my god!"
And then you get inside the Steppenwolf's head with his memoir, and again, like, oh, it's a man of two natures, and you feel like you're going along this certain way. And then you find the Steppenwolf treatise, and it's basically like, yeah, stupid old Steppenwolf making bullshit up in your head. That's all just crap, and you know it.
Yeah, I liked how it was totally right. It was like you sort of they present you with this analogy of the duality of the wolf and the man and whatever.
And you just accept
and
it.
then the Steppenwolf book, the Steppenwolf treatise shows up and is like, look, he's actually like 1,000 bajillion components to the man that are all blah blah blah. It's like you can't possibly even understand. It's so complex. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like someone gives you an analogy, and then at least in the book, they can just make this fictional world match that analogy, so you totally buy into it. And then they sort of just like hit you over the head and remind you, it's like, no, shit ain't that simple, stupid. It's like,
but then
it was very refreshing.
Even then, you still, the way he reacts to the treatise and all that, you still feel like there are all these scenes where you feel like he's a powerful and enigmatic and cool figure in general, but the scene where he just kind of loses his cool and yells at the professor and like all of that together. And as the book goes on, you start to realize that no, he's kind of just a jerk and a loner, and he did it all to himself, and he works himself up into these just fervors of just, I don't know. He gets mad about stupid things for no good reason. He blames it on himself and he's Steppenwolf, and he's not a very likable fellow, both within and without.
Well, I mean, the thing that I thought is like, they build him up sort of early on. They show him like saying really wise things. Like, what was that really wise thing he said?
Oh God! As an
right
aside,
in the beginning.
Never have I read a book more quotable than this book. But they're quotes that you have to memorize. They are like paragraph-long quotations.
Just like my favorite one was still that one that was in the introductory part, where he's like talking about
men who live in their time and before their time and after their time.
No, about the men were made for land. And
well, that was the analogy at the end of that. But the whole thing before that was that the men who suffer are those who were born before the time where they would have that sort of thing.
Right? Yeah, that one too. Both of those. Pretty much, I sort of feel like that both of those are what the book's about. But regardless, I forget what I was saying. Right. Oh, right. Like men were made for the land, and if you go into the
Fish
sea,
in the sea.
right? If you go in the sea, then you'll eventually drown. And how I forget. I wish I had the exact quote. I don't have the book in front of me.
I thought about getting all the quotes.
You know,
early on when I was reading, I was thinking, oh, that's a good quote. I was noting them all. Like, these are things I want to bring up.
But they're not things that you can say quickly, like "ay caramba."
Well, not only that, I realized that this book is one of those quotation per page books where it's just insight upon insight upon insight and quotation upon quotation upon quotation. And there are so many just half paragraph long aphorisms that I don't know what to say. They're brilliant. I just have to memorize them all because there is a quote for every occasion in Steppenwolf. If you need to put someone down...
It's like Queen. They got a song for every possible scenario.
It's exactly that. If you need to be able to just trump anyone in any kind of philosophical argument, there is a Steppenwolf quote for you.
That will be relevant to whatever it is that you're talking about. There's a lot of things like that, though. I mean, you could probably do the same with like a Play-Doh, You could just, any situation, I got a Play-Doh for that. Watch out.
Yeah, but the Steppenwolf ones are more pragmatically relevant to the real world.
Yeah, I think it's weird. It feels like the book is set up in a way, at least, that like, I feel like, it's like you read it and there are certain parts that you can like strongly relate to, and there are certain parts that you don't. But I sort of feel like the book was constructed so that no matter who you are, if you read it, you're going to strongly relate to some portion of it.
Well, I think that's why
on purpose.
People seem to really have very mixed feelings about this book, and a lot of people identify with it in basically completely opposite ways for the completely opposite reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because the idea of the Steppenwolf, like the idea of what he is, feels very alluring because it's almost this cop-out, this answer like, that explains me. I feel like the Steppenwolf sometimes. I feel like the outsider.
See, that's the thing is they show you the Steppenwolf feeling so many different ways that you felt some of those ways before, no matter who you are, if you're a human being. And thus, you sort of identify with those commonalities you have with the Steppenwolf, and then those... the things that you have in common with the Steppenwolf, are sort of grow larger in your view of him, and the things you don't have in common with him sort of grow smaller. So then he just looks like you no matter who you are, but he looks different to every person because every person is a different person.
Yep. And you could go one step further and say that the book means whatever you really wanted it to mean, but it does it kind of cleverly where I could see people seeing the end of this book as a tragedy and as a victory. Like, I could see both interpretations, and I think it's really just a reflection of what kind of person you are as to how you take it.
Yeah. The thing is, I took it sort of like in this weird completely neutral way. You know, it's like I just didn't like.
I took it. I felt a lot at the end of the book, probably the same way Mozart felt about the Steppenwolf at the end of the book. Just shaking your head like, dude, you just didn't get it.
That was so weird when the Mozart showed up.
That was great because it was kind of like the.
I just like imagined it like this crazy movie, like suddenly like a Mozart appears, and then I got my imagination of it was like completely unlike what was actually written. Like I saw them like sitting like in chairs somewhere with like stars everywhere, like they were in outer space or something.
I got that exact same vibe.
Really?
And I think why? Because he hints at this all the time, and it was when he looked at that painting of Goethe, and then later when he talks about the celestial immortality and all those things. There is that feeling, and I know you've experienced it. I know I've experienced it. I think a lot of people have experienced it, where it's easy to forget that the immortals of the world, and when I say immortals, I mean, real
Da Vinci?
immortals. Yeah, people who effectively became immortal through their works, though not obviously living forever somewhere in a bunker.
Elvis.
Yes, not like Elvis. But the idea that it's very easy to forget that they were people, and to esteem upon their works almost undue praise. Maybe not undue is not the word, but it's almost easy to feel that they were transcendent geniuses. They perceived the world beyond what anyone today could, or beyond what I could, that they're beyond me. And to strive for genius is to strive for this unattainable, peaceful, the celestial laughter of the sky and all those sorts of things. And you see the Steppenwolf doing that. Like he envisions these people, like he hates that painting of Goethe, but that's exactly how he sees Mozart. His mental picture of Mozart is the same as that painting, and he didn't realize it. And then he meets Mozart, and
Mozart's just totally normal. Like,
Mozart's
what's up?
a jerk like everybody.
Yeah, Mozart was a jerk like everyone. I mean, whenever I start to like praise famous people in that sort of way, which I do on occasion, like raise, these sort of figures up to like a above human level.
Yep,
I always think about Van Gogh, who's just completely nuts. And that brings me back down.
I think that's why we both pictured the same idea of like Mozart and all these people kind of sitting serenely among the stars, laughing the laughter of the immortals, and this sort of, and that's what the Steppenwolf felt, and he felt like that's what he was striving for, and that's what he had to do.
But they were laughing at him, not with him.
Except it's literally what they, because that is kind of the point of the book, I think, that, Mozart was a normal person, and he got the world. He got it. He laughed at it. At least Mozart of this book, maybe not the real Mozart.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what version of Mozart you're looking at.
Oh, I could,
Salieri.
Genius.
These are originals?
Okay. Oh, man.
But that whole scene at the end, it reminded me, I need some help, listeners. I saw something when I was a kid. I don't know if it was a film, a short film. I have no idea what it was. But it kept cutting between this old man talking about how he realized that he can sharpen pencils with a knife rather than using a pencil sharpener by just going around the edge with the knife. And these clowns in like this World War I prison. And they kept making jokes. And it ended with the clown giving the greatest joke of all. And he says he's going to do a magic trick for everyone. And then they put him up against the wall. And they shoot him. And he just dies. And that was the trick. And I have no idea what this was. And, like, I have these vague...
Some student film?
No, it was on TV.
Whatever.
But I was from the whole end of Steppenwolf, from the murder cars all the way to the end.
The murder car.
I couldn't think of anything but this film, and I have no idea what it is. And I wish I had more to explain, but I don't. There's a tank in it at one point, like a World War I kind of tank.
I think one thing that was weird for me was that, like...
The murder cars?
Well, no. Like, earlier in the book, I sort of was imagining, like, an older time. Like, I mean, what's the time period for this? Is, like, earlier 1900s, I'm guessing?
The book was written, between World War I and World War II.
Right. But I was sort of, like, imagining it in, like, an almost a Victorian world. Like, I was imagining shit being old. Like, way, much older. And then, like, as the book got later on, it's like the time, at least in the imagining in my head, like pushed it way up. Like I was almost imagining like, the 20s, which I guess is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's like the way there was something about, it started when like he met the girl and that sort of thing. The book, like the time just fast forwarded I started imagining like a different time period.
Well, I feel the book was very timeless, and I think ahead of its time in its perception of technology and the future. I mean, Murder Car aside, that whole part near the end where there was the talk of modern world and the changing world and the whole idea that every generation feels like this is the end and everything's coming to chaos.
That was so true.
But it's one thing, we know that. It's one of those things where you know that, I know that. The world's not falling apart any more now than it was during the Greek Dark Ages. Well, I guess it really was falling apart during the Greek Dark Ages, but
there was a renaissance.
But that aside, like the whole every generation, like, everything's falling apart. And yet to read the feeling of that in a book from the 30s, to so literally see someone describing the decay of society exactly the way someone like me would feel it and describe it today in almost the exact same words.
More shit changes, more shit stays the same.
That whole Murder Car segment and the whole thing where Mozart pulls out the crappy gramophone. He's like, listen to that. You can still hear the music even through the static.
Yep. That was that part with the gramophone. That was fucking sweet. Like,
that was brilliant.
Because I was like, hells yeah. First, there's the obvious surface level shit of shut the fuck up audiophiles. It's like, it's so true. It's not the actual, the details of the sensory input that really matter. It's like you can dance to it just as well if it's, full of static as if it's not. As long as the signal is coming through, it's all good.
You can leave your friends behind.
Yeah. And that, that analogy is good for, so many different kinds of messages.
I think it was a broader metaphor though it was back to the whole Mozart thing of he imagines this perfect clarity of, the immortals, of Mozart, of these people, of these achievements of genius. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't realize that the real world is full of static and noise and that nothing's ever as clear-cut and perfect as he wants it to be in his head. And in the real world, you have to just accept the static and listen for the music behind the static. But if you look for just the music and you eschew the static, you'll never find anything.
Yep.
And you'll die a boring, old, lonely man who may or may not have had gay orgy sex while taking cocaine.
May or may not.
Actually, a funny moment when he was talking to Hermione about Maria, who I want to talk about her separately.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the point at which he's asking her, like Maria tells him about Hermione tells him about some like technique of kissing that Maria had. And they talk about it and they're like, oh no, we can't talk about that yet. We're not lovers yet. And then he thinks about it for a second and he wonders how the two girls would be so acquainted with each other's ways of loving. And there's a sentence somewhere near the end of that chapter where he's basically like, and then the Steppenwolf considered these brave new ramifications of the world or something like that, which was this kind of thinly veiled lesbian joke that was, I laughed out loud.
One thing that I've noticed, and I sort of have a theory about this, right? All the literatures that I read, when I was in school, most of the books that I read that were highbrow were because school told me to. And, sexy parts were there, but not often for, school politically correct bullshit reasons, right? And I've sort of noticed that, like, almost all of the highbrow books I've read in college and then since usually have some strong sexual elements to them. And I think pretty much, like, I'm getting the feeling, this is my theory, that all the highbrow literature has strong sexual elements and that schools are basically, like, desperate and they pretty much give you all the ones that don't, which is pretty much all they got. That's why everyone reads all the same books in high school, because those are the only ones that are not offensive to the Puritans.
I'm very surprised that more high school... I mean, this would be Steppenwolf is like the perfect book to give to like a senior high school class.
Yeah, I read Siddhartha as a senior in high school, which is
Yeah.
the same dude, but
Yeah.
that didn't have nearly as much sexiness in it.
I gotta read that again. That was a good book, I recall.
Yeah, it was good. I like that one. I like it better than this one.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
See, I gotta read Demian again. I don't know if I
haven't read
like
that one.
Demian more or not. So
Yeah, I mean, as something to read to enjoy, I mean, like, I didn't really enjoy Steppenwolf that much. Like, it's not something I would read because I want to, you know? It wasn't, like, fun or pleasant. But
I found it both fun and pleasant.
It was intellectually stimulating, and it wasn't intellectually draining, which a lot of things are.
It was a book
that's a point in its favor, but it wasn't like a pleasure.
It was a book that really forced me to analyze a lot of things about myself, to be honest. And while I didn't necessarily change any of my opinions, I analyzed them and I thought about a lot of kind of very personal internal things. I also
you'll do that
realized-
with any book that doesn't suck.
I didn't analyze anything in myself when I read Hyperion. It was a good book, but it was not an introspective book. It was an extrospective book.
I did a little bit when I was thinking about the console guy. Yeah. Anyway.
No, the only inward-looking thing I thought at the end of that, not to spoil, but when you find out who the traitor is, the first thing I thought was, the fuck is wrong with me that I didn't see this coming?
I know, right? It's like,
like I sat the book down. I'm like, am I that stupid? Am I really that stupid?
Yes.
And yes, we all are.
All right.
But I feel like if I had read Steppenwolf when I was younger, I might have turned out slightly differently. Because I was closer to being the Steppenwolf when I was younger than I am now.
Perhaps.
It would depend. I'm talking like if I had read this in like middle school, I would have been a slightly different person. Or in the very least, I think I would have become the person I am now more rapidly than I did.
Maybe. The thing is, it's weird. It's like, I've obviously consumed a great deal of media in all mediums, right, that are available to us as, human beings. And while there is no doubt that many of them have probably changed who I am or contributed to, me being the way I am today, I can't actually make a lot of, like, direct connections. Like, because I read that book at that time, that's why I do this. I can't really do any of that.
You know what's weird? I can, but only in retrospect. Like, I watched Captain Tyler a long time ago, and I missed a bunch of episodes and all that, but I'm watching it again now. It's almost frightening to see how influential it probably was on me.
I think that is maybe if I did like reread something that I read way back and then remembered when I read it originally.
I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of that, though. I try to always get something new because, I try not to do repeats, especially on something as, time-consuming as a book.
It's so difficult, though. I mean, my coworker finally...
Not that this book is time-consuming. I read it in a few days.
My coworker watched some Cowboy Bebop, and he was like, man, that scene, and he started talking about a scene.
Yep.
And all I could think was, I gotta watch Cowboy Bebop again. Jesus Christ.
I started rewatching it again like some months ago, but then I stopped before I finished it.
I think I'm gonna rewatch Escaflowne again.
I already did that recently. I watched the whole thing on the train some months ago. Anything else you got to say about Der Steppenwolf?
Murder Cars.
That was. I think I said the book was unpleasant. But wasn't really fun. The part at the end with all the doors and the murder cars and all that. That was probably the most enjoyable part. Other than the very, very introductory part where it wasn't the step before you actually read the Steppenwolf's memoirs themselves.
Well, each of the doors. I felt like I identified with him one last time where I desperately wanted to enter several of the doors that he did not enter. And I was kind of pissed off that he entered Murder Car of all things because there were better doors than Murder Car.
Well, you could tell that like he was, sort of still resisting, Well,
no, look at the whole metaphor. The room with the chess pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And he got them out, and he kept wanting to use the chess pieces and make worlds and make lives and rearrange everything. But he kept getting distracted by all the other doors, and then eventually it was too late.
Yep.
That was a important part. Also, the have every girl door.
I would have just stayed in that one forever.
But I think that was one of the most powerful parts of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. I wondered.
I mean, which dude does not have pretty much all that, right? It's like there's not a guy, a man on Earth who cannot identify with that door and what happens beyond it. Not one.
But think about the moral of that door. The moral of that
Maybe
door
a eunuch
is basically Courage Wolf. The moral of that door is literally Luke Morgan's "Ask every girl out. Don't be a pussy."
That's true.
That's kind of the moral of the book. I mean, really, if you break it down, I mean, there are a lot of higher morals, and it's a complicated
And I'm sure,
book.
you know, according to the dude who was all scholarly, he's like, yeah, nobody really understands this book on their first go, so we're probably totally wrong.
It's a complicated book, and it says a lot, but I think
Complicated, man.
the core...
No one understands you.
The core moral of the book, to break it down into a very, very simple and possibly vulgar vernacular, is do drugs at least once in your life, don't be a pussy, live a little, have an orgy at least once. I'm not kidding. Like, it's basically just live your life, listen to the music through the static, don't worry about the static, do the best you can, don't be a pussy. Seriously, don't be a pussy. Good God. Just don't be a pussy. Don't strive for things that don't exist.
Yeah.
Dance.
Yeah, learning to dance was like a large portion of the book.
It was a good metaphor, too, because
Yes.
notice how it culminated in a dance?
Yep. Incredibly long and multi-dance.
Yep.
I like that one part of the dance where, like, you know, the one girl's like, oh, you suck. And then later, she's like, whoa, you don't suck anymore.
Because he transformed just by getting in. Well, actually, that's one thing I want
Transform
to
by
talk about.
going into hell.
Because you know how
and
some-
back.
I'm sure you've
And then
experienced
hell
this.
again.
And I know a lot of people experience this, and part of that's why I think people identify with the Steppenwolf. He's at, like, the concert, and he sees all the people around him, like, enraptured by the concert, or, like, he has this impression of other people that they are fully engaged by the concert, by the music. They're dancing, they're enjoying themselves, they're doing whatever. But he is distracted in his own mind, and he can't lose himself in the music. He's thinking about all these other things, and as a result, he feels apart. All those other people are drawn into this thing, and I am not. I'm the Steppenwolf. He's thinking about all these other things. He can't be drawn in, and he feels like he's missing out, and he doesn't know why, and it bothers him.
And he starts thinking about it. Why am I missing out? And that doesn't help you. That's basically just going the opposite direction.
But I'm sure you felt that. You're at a concert, and it's great, but you get the meta where you start thinking, after the concert, what do I do? Or I should move my arms in the air.
Well, I mean, a
bit.
lot of people have problems like that. Like, they can't go to sleep because they just keep thinking about shit. Or, like, lately, I've just been thinking about all the shit I got to do for moving, and I can't, like, do other stuff. And
But look, the only time in this whole book, well, one of the only times, well, no, the only times.
you're
really,
drowning in your thinking.
when he's happy, really, are when he just gives in and actually is able to enjoy what he is doing for what he is doing without worrying about the details of what he is doing and without trying to ascribe whatever he's doing to some higher purpose. When he loses himself in making love to Maria, when he loses himself at the ball at the end, those are the only times he loses himself. And he's not like he becomes stupid or, like, literally loses his mind. He just gives in and doesn't. Yeah.
Also, I just sort of say, you know, he gets those, you know, there's that theater, and it's like, not for everyone, for madmen only. Oh, shit. You know, and that sort of, like, mysterious kind of shit like that. Like, I love that kind of action. Like, what was that Schwarzenegger movie? Last Action Hero? Where they go, like, a mysterious movie theater.
You know?
All that sort. I love that kind of shit.
I'll say straight up, that was a pretty good movie for what it was.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, whenever there's that sort of, like, mysterious crap like that, like, I like that.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about it. I don't want to get into it. We've already gone on a while, but the whole thing about the bourgeois and just the whole, you know, the comfortable people never accomplish anything. They're always torn between two worlds. The very poor and the very rich, and the adventure, and all the ways that you can be forced to live life, and then, like, the middle class of mind life is the worst one because you're not ever shaken up, and you basically live this comfortable, precarious existence forever. The clean doorstep and all that, and there's a lot to say about that, but we've gone on long enough.
Yep. Alrighty,
So, what's the next book?
do we get to do things of the day?
Dare Scott?
Eh? All right. So, no things of the day today. This is going to be weird. The next book. Well, okay, so the goal of the book club is to get people to fucking read, right?
I suggested The Little Prince.
That's a good one. We'll do that next. All right. So I'm trying to think what book is going to get people to read. So I'm like, aha, I know what will get people to read, right?
Do you?
You can't come out with like some book they never heard of because then they might not want to read it, right?
You might have to come up with a book that everyone's heard of but no one's read.
Well, the thing is, it's not a book. I didn't come up with one that everyone's heard of but no one's read. I came up with one that everyone's heard of but probably not everyone's read, right? At least I haven't read it in like a bajillion years. And once, like, you know, like they hear it and we give them an excuse, there's like, they're going to be like, oh, you can't, I got to read it. How could I not, right?
Huh.
So the book, right? And I wanted to pick one that would be, you know, sort of fun and entertaining and not so heavy and intellectual and brainy, you know, that way, you know, everyone could sort of get into it and, you know, not like shy away from something that might be all schoolish. And, also, I wanted to get something that'd be relatively short and easy to read. I'm like, what? There couldn't possibly be a better book, at least not within, like, after I thought of it like a couple weeks ago, I could not think of any possible better book club pick for a show called Geeknights. All right? And you still have no idea what it is, do you?
Maybe one of those chocolate war kind of books?
No, not even close.
Okay.
The book we are going to read is...
Catcher in the Rye?
No.
Okay.
Not that one either. It is the Hitchiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now they have a huge mega deluxe editions that have like all the books in it, right? I am only assigning you kiddies the very first original Hitchiker's Guide to the Galaxy book.
All right, a little hint. A lot of people probably have not actually read this book or any of them. What I will recommend is, like Scott said, you're brilliant. This is your excuse to read them and never let anyone know your bitter, dark secret.
Right. I haven't read it since like forever. I barely remember half of it. So, I
remember listening to radio dramas of it.
Yeah, I remember there was the radio drama, and there's the more recent movie that I never saw, but I saw the trailer for.
The radio drama was just brilliantly voice acted. Good God.
Anyway.
Quick, they're coming. Nobody.
So everyone go on Amazon, buy a link. I'm going to link to like the mega deluxe edition that includes all this stuff, and also link to just, you know, the original book by itself with nothing extra added. And that's all we're going to talk about. We're only going to talk about the very first book. We're not going to talk about, you know, like freaking Salmons of Doubt or any shit like that, right? So keep that to yourself.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.